Hi angels, it's Brianna. Welcome to another knitting video. I wanted to make a video where I showcase all of the things that I made in 2023. The good and the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. So I hope you guys enjoy this video and let's just get started. Last winter, Jalen and I spent a lot of it in Switzerland. In Zurich specifically, they have a grocery store, it's almost like a Target like superstore where it has like groceries, but then it has like everything. It has like clothing, homeware, decor, kitchen supplies, like you name it. I don't know if this is the right word, but this is the American way I say it, coop? Anyways, they have an entire section of knitting, like a huge section. And I originally found this like dark gray yarn and they only had one ball left. Like I asked the lady, I was like, do you think this is enough to like knit anything? And she's like, probably not, you should get a second ball. So I chose this light gray color. And I decided I was gonna make a pair of mittens and I was going to make them mismatch. It's so funny because I actually made two pairs. So basically I could have just made one pair in this dark gray, but instead I made two pairs and I gave one to my mother-in-law. And I still have leftover yarn, so whatever. I loved it so much that I made three last year. So I made one for my mother-in-law, these, and then a cream pair for one of my best friends, Valerie, who got married last year. So it was like a little wedding gift for her. The next piece that I made was actually a fail. I started making this in 2022 in the summertime. Basically, I knit this up and it just was not flattering at all. This is the leftover of that first project. I had to do so many modifications to this pattern that I literally got so frustrated and I was like, screw it, I'm just learning how to crochet. So I taught myself how to crochet in 2022 and I pretty much crocheted that whole year. I didn't knit anything. But I knew I wanted to make that top eventually, so this past year I picked it back up and I did my own modifications, so the neckline is a lot more flattering. I still don't wear this that much and it's not my favorite thing just because the yarn is kind of like an acrylic mohair base, so like you can even see the stitch definition. Like I'm a relatively advanced knitter, but it just kind of looks sloppy, and that's just because of the yarn that I used. My next knit was a labor of love. There's this picture that I saw online that I've had saved for the longest time. It is a design by ilovemrmittens. So I used that as inspiration and I didn't have a pattern. They actually did a collab with Wool and the Gang where they had a pattern, but they no longer sell it, unfortunately. So I kind of had to configure it and like figure it out myself. This was my end result. Since this yarn is not very structured, you can't see the cable as well as something like a regular wool, but I kind of like the look of it. I think it's really cool. And since this yarn is so bulky, it knit up so fast. It's really cozy. It feels like a cloud, honestly. I do love this yarn, but yeah. Anyways, the next piece I made, I think, is my pride and joy. This year, I started watching a Danish YouTuber. Her YouTube name is Danish Musings. She introduced me to the Lamb Kid, which is this really luxurious, beautiful yarn company based out of Bainbridge Island, Washington. And they make the most beautiful, high quality yarns in such gorgeous colors. There was a girl who made a sweater in this color, and when I saw it I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm gonna make, but I need to get this yarn. So I bought this and she held her yarn triple. I made a little swatch here, so on this half I'm using it triple and on this half I'm using it double, but I kind of like how it draped more holding it double. So I didn't use as much yarn as her. She used 9 skeins and that's how many I ordered, but I only ended up using 5. So I have 4 skeins of this yarn left over. So I am planning on making a pair of mittens and hat with it. But anyways, I have had this jacquemus little cardigan for a minute now, and it's one of my favorite sweaters. Like, it's such a gorgeous design. The issue with it is when I put it on, I immediately want to take it off because it is the most uncomfortable, itchy fabric ever. I think it's like a mohair acrylic blend, and anytime there's mohair mixed with acrylic, my body just rejects it. When I saw there was a pattern for this knit, I was like, immediately, yes, I can make it. in comfy yarn. I can wear it all the time. Like, I'm so excited. This was genuinely such a fun and engaging piece to knit. I got these little buttons off of Etsy. I didn't knit it all the way to where she recommended. I kept trying it on, and whenever I felt like, okay, this is good length, I stopped. And I also did the buttons differently. But other than that, I followed it pretty much to a T, and I really love this pattern, love this design. It is genuinely like the cutest sweater ever, and I would highly recommend. This is the Sophie scarf. For any of you knitters, you probably know this. It's by Petite Knit. It's a very popular pattern, but I call this my Little Mermaid Sophie scarf because I made it around the time the Little Mermaid came out this year, and it kind of has like those colors, like it reminds me of Little Mermaid. This is a really practical scarf because it genuinely keeps your neck so warm, and there's so many different ways you can tie it up. Like, I go out in an icy tundra, I'm good. I wore this in Wisconsin, and like, that weather had nothing on me, okay? And I'm a baby, I grew up in Arizona, okay? You can wear it as a headband, like that. You can wear it literally so many different ways. It's crazy. If you're a new knitter, or if you're just looking for something that's not too complicated and something you can bring in your purse and bring to the dentist, bring anywhere, this is such a great pattern. The next thing I made, I'm actually still working on. It was supposed to be done for Jalen's birthday this year. I've actually never knit him anything because knitting men's sweaters just seems like too much for me. And he doesn't really wear knitwear. We don't live in a super cold climate. Not that I need so much knitwear, but I've never knit him anything. When we were in Switzerland last year, he was like, you know, I understand why people wear scarves. So he asked me if I could make him a scarf for when we travel and go to cold places. And I always had that in the back of my mind, and I actually started making a Sophie shawl with this yarn, which is basically the Sophie scarf but like huge. And as I was knitting it, he's like, can you make me something in that exact yarn? I was like, you know what, he wanted a scarf, let's make him a scarf. I'm loosely following this free pattern that I found on Pinterest. I was looking up like men's scarves, and I found this one, which is using like a half herringbone stitch, which I think is really cool. As I started knitting this, I was like, Jalen is not gonna wear a scarf. Like, he's not gonna wear a scarf. I could not imagine him being like, he's not a scarf guy. I'm like, what am I doing? But I think he would wear like kind of more like a cowl that kind of like sits like that. So I'm pretty much done with this. I was supposed to finish this on his birthday, which was in November. Didn't. I was like, okay, it's fine, I'll knit it for Christmas. Didn't finish it. So now I'm like, okay, Valentine's Day, I need to finish this. This year I really wanted to make stockings, and I found another pattern by Petite Knit, my new favorite knitwear designer. It's funny because I've never knit a pair of socks, even though I've been knitting for coming up on 4 years now. I've never knit a pair of socks. But this is constructed basically like a huge sock, so this was kind of my first pair of socks I ever made. Basically, when you knit this up, it is way bigger than this. Like, it is massive, but you put it through the wash a few times until it's the desired size that you want, and then you add the little leather straps. And the leather straps I actually bought off of the Petite Knit website. You're supposed to actually fold in and sew this top part, but I actually really loved the look of the rolled hem, so I kept it like that. These were our first family stockings, and I'm so happy about these. Like, I'm gonna have these in our family forever, and eventually I'm gonna have to make some for like our little kids. Isn't that so cute? I can't wait. Again, my obsession with Petite Knit. This is my first ever Petite Knit sweater that I made. Oh my gosh, it's my favorite thing ever. I used this yarn by the Lamb & Kid, the Serendipity yarn, and I got it when they were doing a 20% off sale. It's 100% cashmere in the shade Cowl. This is legit all I have left And you're like, Brianna, what? You just showed another ball of yarn. Well, as I was getting near the end, I was so scared that I wouldn't have enough yarn. So I called the shop and I was like, hey, do you have any more? And this is actually a different color. They're very close, but this is a bit more cool toned. This one's a bit more warm toned. So I was really scared that I'd have to use this and they'd be a bit different. Luckily I didn't. I did have to use, I think like 10 grams of it, maybe less, for like the last rows on the inside. If I would have ran out and I didn't have this extra, I would have just re-knit the bottom here and just taken a few rows out, and it wouldn't have changed the look of the sweater, and I'd have enough yarn. I used this yarn held double, and I used exactly 6 skeins of yarn. Genuinely my favorite and my new most worn sweater ever. There's something about it, when I put it on, it just feels like home. Like I feel comforted. The whole body used 4 skeins and then each sleeve used 1. I wish you could feel it, because it is genuinely, I keep saying that, like this is the softest thing ever, but this actually is. I did get the yarn on sale, but since it is cashmere, it is a bit more on the expensive side. But if you think about it, like a hand knit 100% cashmere sweater, this is something that would go for thousands of dollars, genuinely. So yeah, that was everything that I made in 2023 that I knit. I crocheted one thing, but I think during the summer I'm gonna show you guys the things I've crocheted. Anyways, thank you guys for sticking around till the end. If you did, cheers to you, truly. You're amazing. I hope you guys enjoyed. I have yarn in my eyes, everywhere in my mouth. I hope you guys have an amazing week, and I will see you next time.